I'm quitting alcohol. And 2020 has done it again. 2020, which has had me by the fucking balls all year, decided just before he exits the fucking studio to give them a little squeeze. A good fucking squeeze just to remind me who the boss has been this year. So after I recorded the podcast yesterday, I went inside and I had a little snack. Some honey smoked chicken, which had been reduced because it was about to expire. And I got a good deal. It was $12, marked down to $3. Fucking bargain. Who does not love a little bit of fucking reduced meat? It feels like you're fucking beating the system. It's probably the same feeling hillbillies get when they eat roadkill. Just pure fucking joy. So I opened this chicken and I'm going to say it didn't smell the best. It kind of had a twang to it, but I thought that was just the honey glaze. So I had a bite, tasted okay, gave a little bit to my wife. She had a little bite and spat it out. She said that is definitely off. And I'm like, there's no fucking way that's off. There's still 1 day to expiry, which was just the fucking savings talking, I'm pretty sure. So I ended up eating the whole lot. Then about an hour later, we went out to dinner and I was starting to feel a little weird. I had just had 2 teas as well, so I thought it was because I was jacked up on caffeine. But we get to the restaurant. I order a steak, I get a few bites into it and I'm like, nah, this is not good. My stomach was churning, I started getting the sweats. There was fluid building up fucking everywhere. So I bailed from dinner, went home and then spent the next 24 hours fucking shitting, throwing up, drooling, pissing. Fluids were coming out of every single fucking orifice. It was not a good scene. I was cramped. I couldn't sleep. Didn't sleep a fucking wink. It was brutal. And just as I was beginning to feel better, I was in the middle of a little bit of a siesta. A late afternoon nap after I was up all night shitting and vomiting. Then the news filtered through that Victoria are shutting their fucking borders again. And everyone who is out of the state needs to be across the border by 12 o'clock. Midnight on the 1st of January. And even if you do get across then, it will be 2 weeks home isolation and a COVID test. So that's what my new year is going to be looking like. 14 fucking days in home isolation with a 4-year-old and a fucking baby and a wife. What a fucking start to 2021 that is going to be. Victoria put this in today. On New Year's Eve. So everyone who is out of the state is rushing back to the border now so they don't have to home isolate. We were too fucking far to make it. The news came too late. So now we're fucked. But on New Year's Eve, you couldn't hold it off 1 fucking day, you cunts. And for listeners overseas who are thinking, fuck, the situation must be pretty bad down there in Victoria. I tell you how many cases Victoria have? 6 cases. 6 whole fucking cases. Not 600, not 6,000, not 60, 6. And the borders are now closed indefinitely. I don't know what the fuck that means. We're not allowed to leave the state ever now. Is that what it fucking means? Anyway, who gives a fuck? Fuck them, fuck COVID, fuck 2020. Even with all this bullshit going on, you can still dance to the beat of your own fucking drum. You just need to figure out how. So anyway, let's get to it. It's New Year's Eve, we're going into a new year, and this is the one time every year I be sincere. But don't worry, it won't last long. I'll get it over and done with and get back to calling everyone cunts ASAP. So I get messages all the time from people all around the world saying thank you for the podcast. It's helped me and I appreciate you doing it. Well, I just want to say thank you to you for listening. This year was such a fucking tumultuous year. From the lockdowns to having a new baby to thinking I was going to have twins and then not having twins. It's just been a wild fucking year. I don't know where I would fucking be without this podcast. I don't know how I would have got through all this shit. Because even though I'm just sitting here yelling into the microphone most of the time, it doesn't actually feel like that to me. It feels like I'm speaking to everyone out there. It feels like I'm talking to all you. I'm very, very lucky that I get to share whatever the fuck's going on in my head with the listeners every day. And people listen and people send me messages. And you guys tell me a little bit about your lives and I get to learn a little bit about you. And the more I do this podcast and the more I hear your stories, the more I realize everyone is totally, completely fucked. But everyone thinks that they're the only one. But you're not. Everyone has the same fears, the same hopes, the same dreams. But most people are afraid to tell someone else or to reach out to someone. And if all this is something where you can come and listen to someone struggle with the same shit you're struggling with, so at least you know you're not the only one, then I feel very lucky to be that person for you. But understand this, the struggle is universal. You turn to anyone and people will listen if you tell them. So I just want to say thank you for listening to my shit, because I need people to talk to, and the more the fucking merrier. Now enough with this fucking gay shit. It's time to light up a couple of green teas and say fuck you to 2020. Suck my balls and bring on 2021. I don't give a fuck what you've got for me. I'm gonna fucking take it. So again, thanks to everyone who listened, who reached out to me, sent me messages, gave me reviews, referred it to other friends. If not for you, I'm just a crazy dude yelling some shit out in my bedroom, which I'm also okay with. So anyway, this is the last episode for 2020, and I'll see ya the fuck later.